welcome to my channel where I talk about books and bookish things. Today I'm going to run through my October reads, my October wrap up. So I'm going to do it quite quick fire because I read 23 books in October, so otherwise it'll be a very long video. I hope you're all well, and we will begin. I'm going to start with the ebooks first. I tend to read more ebooks than physical books generally because it's easier for me to hold them. I have trouble with my hands holding physical books sometimes. So I love my Kindle. I love my Kindle. So the first book I'm going to talk about is here, You Dracula by D.S. Crowe. This is the second in the Dracula Chronicles by D.S. and it is just beautiful. The first book, I, Dracula, I read last year, and that was all about the real life of Vlad Tepes, or Vlad the Impaler, but with a fictional overlay about the Dracula mythology. It was fantastic, sumptuous, just so descriptive, beautiful. This, You Dracula, talks about the three women in his life and the story from the first book from their perspective. It is incredible. Firstly, his mother, then his wife, then his lover. His mother was, you know, royalty, really, but how she describes what happened to her, it's so awful. His wife was the daughter of a well-loved official, forced into marriage. And then his lover was a poor woodcutter's daughter. And all of them traumatized, damaged, abused by Vlad, by Dracula. Absolutely incredible. Again, like being within that 15th century, you could smell the smells and hear the sounds. She's just such an incredible, fully immersive writer. Just beautiful. Cannot recommend this enough. The next one, Blood Alcohol by Michael Butler. I read this as part of a book tour. It's 10 tales, horror stories, obviously, from the cover, told from a New Zealand indie writer perspective. They're all weird and unusual and just little snippets of life going bad. So that I really enjoyed it. It was really good, really easy read, really quick. Next, The Lingering by D.M. Gritzmacher. The DM got in contact with me and asked me if I would like to read this, and I said yes. This is the third book in the Skullduggery series, and I absolutely loved it. There was a wonderfully nostalgic feel to it. It was kind of like Stand By Me kind of vibes to me. The main two characters in it are Stander and his friend Seacrest, who's a detective. And from the first two books, they're obviously looking at this archaeological mystery that's going on. In this book, he goes back in time and he's told in dual timelines from when he was a child with his friends. They go to find a hidden cemetery and what they find there and how that has impacted not only his life but the life of his friends. And he wants to make things right. And so he looks up his friends and finds out, and they go again to search for what was there. Such a good book. It's such a great horror. It's really creepy. At the same time as this is going on, you've got another timeline. So you've got the modern day timeline with Stander and Seacrest, the 80s timeline of the four boys trying to find the cemetery, and then you've got a serial killer who is stalking the train lines. Obviously, this is set in Illinois in the States. Jumping the rail tracks and annihilating whole families. It's just beautiful. It's just a fantastic horror read. I would highly recommend it. And I have downloaded the first two to catch up, but you can read them all as standalones, but there is a theme that runs, there is like an arc through it. Next, I read Autumn Crow by Cameron Chaney. This is, I think it's YA. I'm not sure. I think it's YA. And these are short stories about the town of Autumn Crow, where it is Halloween all year. It's proper creepy little tales, ghost stories. weird goings on, strange things in the forest. I mean, it's just exceptional. I really, really enjoyed it. It was perfect for the spooky season, although I'm a spooky all the year, but it was a great read for that time of year. Would be a great read any time. Really quick, easy stories. Absolutely loved it. Gave you a very kind of holistic view of Autumn Crow and the people who live there. His second book, Autumn Crow High, has come out, which is a novel set in this town, but it is a creepy town. But to be fair, I'd probably live there, you know what I mean? The next one, The Soxorcist by Jamie Cords. Jamie sent this to me to read, and I felt that afterwards I needed to bleach my brain. This is about socks and kinky goings on. Yeah, this is the third book he's written, and he's created this kind of whole genre of sexual shenanigans. This story is kind of, it takes the story of The Exorcist and twists it into socks, but very explicitly. It is one of those books where you just go, oh, what? But there's something enjoyable about it, because even though it's really very depraved, there's also kind of this very dark humor in it that is just incredible. But it's only a short story, and it was written especially for Halloween, and thank you for Jamie for sending it. I really loved it. Next one, just a bit of a change of pace. If Walls Could Talk by Lucy Worsley. I love Lucy Worsley. She's an English or British historian, if you don't know. And this is a story of the history of the home. So basically goes around the home of the rooms of the house and explains how their uses have changed over the years. My favourite one was the bedroom. I mean, in like Tudor times, the bedroom was a public place where meetings took place and events took place. If somebody was giving birth, especially if they were royalty, there'd probably be 50 people in the bedroom watching just to make sure that the child was born and wasn't switched for another child. On their wedding night, you know, those of the landed gentry had people watching them to make sure that their marriages were consummated. It was a very public place. Now it's a very private place. And she does this to each of the rooms in the house. It's absolutely fascinating. Loved it. I always read a non-fiction or a biography alongside all the other fiction I read, because I've got like a Kindle in every room. So but yeah, really enjoyed it. Really love her writing. She makes history really accessible. Great book. Next, From Below by Darcy Coates. So many of my mutuals have recommended Darcy Coates to me, and this is my first book by her. Now, I only have two phobias, thalassalophobia, which is a fear of deep water, and triviliophobia, which is a fear of being buried alive, both of them because of an event which happened when I was 8. But this is a deep sea horror. So it's set on a ship, a liner, a luxury liner that sank mysteriously. I think it was like 100 years ago. And this team of deep sea investigators have given permission to dive on it because it was found. And so it's all narrow corridors, very deep underwater, 300 feet underwater. And turns out that there might be a reason why it sank. And that reason is in the walls. And it's such a good horror. The people who went down with the ship are still there, and maybe not completely dead. But it's a great book. It's really creepy. It's claustrophobic. It's dark. And I really enjoyed it. So yeah, really good. I'm looking forward to reading another one of hers. Then I read 2 from an indie author called Andrew Franks, Thoughts and Prayers. I'm just checking what they're called. And Prayer Without Ceasing. These are religious horrors. Andrew is a Christian himself, and he's not afraid to talk about the problems within Christianity. These are horrors based around abuse within the church, and also dealing with demonic energies, and 2 young boys. I really enjoyed them. They're very quick reads, and yeah, they were good. I enjoyed them. Next, At Home with the Horrors by Sammy Scott. This is a collection of 13 or 14 stories from Sammy Scott. I love these. These are basically stories about you wake up in your house one day and you start your day, you go out, you go to work or whatever, and everything is normal until it's not. And these are little slices of horror peering into the normality of life. Writing is beautiful. I loved, there's a novella in here called Emil Bones, which I really loved that. But there is a short story in here that has one of the best jump scares I've read in years. Didn't scare me, but it was like, oh, okay, here we go. Just exceptional. Really exceptional. So yeah, loved that. Absolutely loved it. That was on Kindle Unlimited, just so you know. Next, I listened to, and I rarely include any audiobooks. I don't read a lot of audible books. But this was a full cast, Our Cranium, it's called, by Mark Towers and Damon Manx. And this is a full cast horror. And it's all about a group of writers. They sit in a pub and they're all discussing who's the best writer out of all of them, right? And so they decide, somebody mentions, well, this new AI technology where we can plug into it and we can create a horror and make it into, like, we're in virtual reality, and the other people can decide who's the best writer. So that's what they do. And of course, what would you do if all of your deepest, darkest, most depraved thoughts could be made reality? How far would you go to prove that you were the best? And that's basically what this is, a full cast audio. The actors in it were exceptional. It is very, very dark, but such an interesting idea. Do you know what I mean? Such an interesting premise. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed that. That was sent to me by Mark, so thank you for that. Also, this month there was a release of Jiggly Spot by P.D. Oliver. I read this as an ARC earlier in the year, and I reread it again for October, so it was fresh in my mind. This is complete carnival of depravity. It is a 500-page horror opera with just incredible read. Horror's very rarely that kind of length, you know, you don't have them books that kind of length, but this is just, it's so fast-paced. There's so many, each chapter is a different point of view, all leading to this cannibal festival. Incredible book. Each chapter is a different point of view, different person, and it just makes the story read so quickly, so fast-paced, that you don't feel like it's a massive book. But this has a lot of triggers, so if you thinking of picking this up, please check the trigger warnings, all the content warnings. Just beware. But I loved it. I mean, I love horror. Give me all the horror. Give me all the depravity. But yeah, really enjoyed that. So that's all my ebooks for the month. Next, we have the book club picks for this month. First one is a Tales Point Horror book club, which was The Vanished by Celia Reese. This was Point Horror Unleashed, which was a series of books that Point Horror did, because most of them were in the States, obviously, with British authors. Celia, probably the best known book by Celia is called The Witch Child, which is incredible. This is a really creepy story set in England at a school where children keep going missing, and there's this strange underground tunnels. It is just really, really creepy. Very British. There's a lot of things in here that I'm sure if people from outside Britain read it would think, what would they mean? You know what I mean? But I absolutely loved it. And this cover, look at that. That's proper creepy, isn't it? But yeah, another child goes missing. And it's basically set around this school newspaper team and the photographer's daughter, sister goes missing, and all of them get together to try and save her, and it makes them go underground. And yeah, it's a historical horror too, because the evil that's in this is from long ago. But yeah, very good, loved it. The next one, let's get my notes out, was Every Exquisite Thing by Laura Stephen. This is the retelling, sapphic retelling of The Picture of Dorian Gray. I've only just recently finished reading this. It's actually the YA Book Club 2023 chat discussion tonight on Amy McCaw's channel. I'll be on that discussing this book. I've tabbed it quite a lot. The writing is truly exquisite, and it's all set in a drama academy called Dorian's Drama Academy. And there's this girl who goes there called Penny. Her mother's very famous and notorious, get me words out, notorious, and she feels like she's in her shadow. And then she's offered the opportunity to maybe, you know, live forever. And so she takes it, and that's the story of perhaps she made a mistake doing that when people start to die. But yes, it's an excellent book. It's gloriously gothic. The writing is just delicious. The way she describes things, I wonder if I can find a quick description in here. That's here we go. So this is right at the beginning. The campus grounds rolled away from the Abernathy Hall like a bolt of emerald silk. At the foot of the lawn was a kidney-shaped lake patrolled by vicious swans, next to which was a small, rotting boathouse, painted flaky white and sky blue. You can imagine it, right? I mean, it's just beautiful. Her writing is just beautiful. She's an auto-bio author for me now. But yeah, so that was the YA Book Club. And then I read a classic, Hell House by Richard Matheson. And this is from the 70s and is very much of its time. So if you find misogyny and sexism a little bit difficult to stomach, you probably won't stomach this one very well. But it's a great horror. It's a fantastic horror, very much in the style of The Exorcist and Amityville at the time. And it's about a group of people who go, psychic investigators, who go into the Hell House, where the man who owned it before, he was renowned for having parties that explored every depravity that existed, and now it's haunted, supposedly the most haunted place. And there's a psychic investigator who's all science, his wife, who is very vulnerable and quite innocent, and the two psychics. One of the psychics survived the Hell House before. The last investigator that went in, he was the sole survivor. It's really good. It is, but again, check the warnings on this one. The evil entity that's in this house does the worst things imaginable, especially to the female psychic. So, but I loved it. Great. Next, I read All Hallows by Christopher Golden. This has been everywhere, hasn't it, in October. I really enjoyed this. I know it divides opinion. It's set in the 80s, so there's a nostalgia to it. On this street where everybody supposedly lives perfect lives, and then we scratch the surface and that's not true. And all the while this is going on, it's Halloween night. There was 4 creepy kids just wandering around trying to get people to look after them and protect them from the cunning man. It's a creepy supernatural horror, very nostalgic. Really enjoyed it. The main thing I enjoyed about this, and what I enjoy most about Christopher's other books, is the incredible characterization. Each chapter is a character's point of view, and that's how the story's moved on. And he just manages to very simply put the character's imagery in your head, so you know exactly what that character's like. And he's really excellent at that. So that's what I enjoyed about this book. But yeah, it's a decent read for me anyway. Next, I might have to have a break. Next, Leech by Hiron Ennis. This is a true gothic horror. If you don't normally read, especially classic Gothic horror, Edwardian and Victorian especially, then you will find this quite difficult to read. It's written very much in that tone. The syntax is very difficult to pick up on until you get into the book. I mean, I loved it. I love Gothic horror, so I absolutely loved it. And this is basically a story about an institute which is basically run by an alien intelligence, a parasite that has implanted itself in various bodies, but it has one hive mind. And one of those doctors is sent out to this isolated Baron's house, because the doctor, who was one of the doctors in, one of his bodies, has died. And when he does the autopsy, there's another parasite that's less selective about who it inhabits. I mean, I loved it. It's proper dark. It feels cold. It's set in the winter, and the writing, of course, is very, very descriptive. Purple prose, very much so, and it feels cold. And I mean, I just loved it. This is a debut by this author, and as I said, if Gothic fiction is not your thing, I mean, traditional Gothic fiction, you'll probably find this quite hard. It does require you to kind of complete the puzzle as you go along. It doesn't give you all the answers. You have to work them out. I love doing that, but if you don't, you probably won't enjoy it, but I really loved it. Let's just have a little drink, shall we, loves? How have you been? Did you have a good Halloween? It was a washout for me. We had torrential storms. Oh, it was Storm Kieran came into the southwest. And so we had torrential rain and wind, so all the little ghouls stayed away. So, I mean, but I had, a whole bowl full of chocolates to eat. So me and my husband were happy about that. But I usually love Halloween. I decorate my whole house. I dressed up. I had Halloween music playing. And they always come to me, because I'm the only one really in the area that does it in my area where I live. But obviously the weather was too bad. It's just the way it is. Next year, but I hope you all had a beautiful Halloween. And I tell you what I'm finding quite difficult is that everything on my social media is now Christmas. Now, I love Christmas. I bought myself a Countdown to Christmas calendar. I love Christmas, but let me get over Halloween. I'm still mourning Halloween. You know what I mean? It's Halloween all year for me. It's always Halloween in my soul. Anyway, on with the book. Sorry, brief chat pause. Next, Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle. Oh, I loved this book. This is a signed... Is this a signed copy? Yeah, this is a signed copy from A Bono Book Club. This is just incredible. I loved it. It's set in a town where a very, very Christian or conservative town, where there is a camp there that retrains LGBTQ children to not be gay, basically. And there's a girl in this, and it starts out where she's with her friends. She's having a good time on a summer. She's very, very reserved. And over dinner that night, she starts throwing up flies. It's a great book. What they're doing in the conversion camp is horror. It's a horror. These places actually exist. This takes a supernatural route for what they're doing, but these places actually exist, and there are some people in this book that you will truly hate. But I loved it. Never read anything by Chuck before. Absolutely loved it. I'll be looking up his other stuff. Brilliant book. Next, Amongst the Mists by M.L. Rayner. Matt Rayner. He's a local indie author to me. Absolutely loved this. This is a ghost story about a couple of kids who go into the woods to explore and find more than they bargain for, to be honest. There is a very creepy evil in this that needs to be fed. I loved it. I also love the fact that the shadow in the pool has got creepy eyes. But yeah, it's proper kind of old-fashioned adventure, thriller, horror, ghost story. It's so good. And I really enjoyed it. It's one of my first reads of the month. And it really got me in the mood for the spooky season. As I say, I'm spooky all year, but still loved it. Next, Travelling Monsters by S.A. Lunami. A bit of a change of direction. This is a fantasy, and I absolutely loved this. This lovely lady is from LA, and she sent me this. She asked if I wanted a copy, and I said, well, send me an ebook. She said, no, I'll send you a copy. I didn't realise she was in LA, so blown away, but absolutely loved it. It's such a good story. You know, it starts off where there's this couple who are going away to Europe, and they're on a plane, and there's a troll sitting next to them, but the girl can see the troll. Everybody else sees her as a normal human. And the troll wants to eat the soul of her boyfriend. So, or eat him. I mean, physically eat him. And there's also a fae element in here, who wants to, you know, literally eat the soul of the girl who's in it. And it's basically the story of that. It is fantastically mythical. They go into a mythical kingdom during this it's just so cozy. If you loved Legends and Lattes, or anything by Neil Gaiman or Terry Pratchett, that kind of fantasy where there's humour, but also it's a wonderful, fantastical creation of a world. This is set very much in the modern world with the mythical world alongside it in parallel. If you love that kind of writing, then you'll love this. It was such good fun. This is a debut too. I was so impressed. But yeah, absolutely loved it. Great book. Talking about the great man himself, Sir Terry Pratchett, A Stroke of the Pen. Oh my, I mean, this is gorgeous. This is the Waterstones special edition. I ordered it the day it came out, obviously. I love Terry Pratchett. I love the Discworld. I mark times of my life by those books. They came out, you know, I bought them as they came out. And this is a collection of short stories he wrote in local newspapers when he was a journalist in the 70s and 80s under a pseudonym. And they've been found by this wonderful couple who were friends of his and put together all in this collection. It's marvellous. They are short stories, and it was a long time before he wrote the Discworld, but you can glimpse his genius in this. And also there's it was like the first mention of Morpork, like Ankh Morpork from Discworld is in here. There's the first story with, you know, odd wizards and barbarians. I mean, if you love Terry Pratchett, you have to read this book. It is just incredible. I loved it, and I devoured this. I mean, it's not terribly long. What's lovely is, I'm going to show you, at the back there's a couple of illustrations. These are Terry's doodles. This was both wonderful and heartbreaking, because when Terry died, I realised there would be no more Discworld, and he very famously made sure that his hard drive with all of his work in progress was destroyed by a roller, what they call a steamroller. It's actually a great story here about a steamroller. But so to find this is just miraculous. But then at the same time, when I got to the end, I thought, well, that's it now. That's the last story I'll ever read by him. I mean, I can reread, and I do reread the Discworld regularly. They're comfort reads for me. But still, all those stories never to be told. But this is brilliant. Pick it up, my darlings, if you like Terry Pratchett. Finally, last two. This was the month I first picked up graphic novels. I've never read a graphic novel before. The way I read, I see a movie in my head. So I always wondered how that would work. You know, if I could see pictures, would that get confusing if the words didn't match where I could see my head that was on the page? Anyway, you know, I'm probably overthinking it. So I asked the Books of Horror Facebook group to recommend some horrors and some graphic novel horrors and sci-fi for me, and I picked 3, and I read 2 this month. Saga This is about an intergalactic war, and these two people obviously are from different sides, and they get together and they have a baby. And oh, you can see my light on that, can't you? Ooh, glossy. I loved it. The imagery is stunning. I loved the sci-fi aspect is brilliant. The aliens in it, fantastic. Really loved it. This is volume 1. I'm probably gonna get the rest. And the last book, my friends, phew, you say phew. The Witches. This is also a graphic novel. I've got to be careful what I'm showing because some of it's quite graphic. And these are witches you will have never seen before. These are witches that are the darkest witches you will ever come across. And this is all about a family that moved to a town, and the teenage girl starts hearing whispering from the woods. Incredible. I mean, this is really a really great horror, and the artwork in this is spectacular. And at the end, I believe this was crowdfunded. At the end, there's several essays from the authors, from one specific author, I think is Snyder. I think Snyder's the author and these 3 are the illustrators, explaining how he came up with this and how the process to it getting published. Absolutely incredible. This is a standalone as far as I know, but there are others in this series. I'm going to definitely get them. Absolutely brilliant. So that's it, my friends. 23 reads in October. It was a good month. I didn't have any DNFs. I didn't dislike any of them. Some I preferred more than others. But my favourite reads of the month. Okay. Stroke of the Pen. Absolutely. Hand down. Travelling Monsters. Loved it. Cozy hug of a book. You Dracula. Beautiful. Delicious. Like reading honey. Oh. Loved it. Those were my 3 favourite of the month. But all of them were good reads. So anyway, my loves, that's that. On to November. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all safe. I hope you're all keeping warm. And remember, my darlings, stay spooky.